Hello, alchemists. And today we are asking, what is Spirit preparing you for right now? So what's coming up for you? And we're going to explore that. And I always just pull these cards. I don't cherry pick them. So sometimes if they look a little scary, but if you're called to it, remember there's a message here for you. Okay. If you already chose your doorway, check the timestamps below. If not, I'm going to give you a closer look. We have Miracles, 777, False Light. It's about discernment, and interference, about energetic interference. Choose your doorway, alchemist, and let's begin the great work. Hello, and welcome to your initiation through doorway number 1. I'm Jazz, and thank you so much for being here. Today we're asking, what is Spirit preparing you for? Miracles. This is the card everybody wants, right? Preparing you for miracles. You might have been seeing 777 around a lot, or you might start seeing it around, and that is a sort of like a confirmation so there's this saying, I think it's from a Taoist book, and it says auspicious signs are not superstitions but confirmations. So just remember that. It says, what once felt unreachable is now entering your field of reality. Stay in your frequency of trust and expect to witness the extraordinary made real. To understand this fully, let's go ahead and pull a shadow card. I'm going to pull two, one from this deck and one from the storytelling deck that I have, a different storytelling deck, and get kind of an idea of what's going on in the shadow here. With miracles, a lot of times there's just an implication that you've gone through hard times to get here, because it's saying staying in your frequency of trust. So you've probably worked really hard to get into that frequency, or you're there. Yeah. What once felt like adversarial, it's almost like in the past you might have gotten bogged down in petty things that really weren't yours, but they were manufactured stuff that other people brought up. And now it's like when you see that, you're like, oh, I see it for what it is. So in your shadow is this energy of quiet understanding that stuff only, like that what you give your attention to becomes your reality, right? What you focus on becomes your reality. Healing. Look at that. What a feeling. The miracle coming into your life, the things that Spirit is preparing you for, is to, through the process of your healing, inspire others into their own healing journey. And you don't do that, I mean, maybe you do that by becoming a healer officially or whatever, but you do that just by shining your own light. Your life becomes a miracle that inspires other people. Hold on, let's see. Bless me, bless me. So your life becomes the miracle that inspires others just through your presence. You don't have to say or do or even formally teach anything. Garden, the heart. Oh my gosh. After the last reading I did, which was really heavy, this feels so beautiful, so light, so peaceful. Spirit is saying, you made it. You're almost there. Keep watering what brings you joy. Keep inspiring yourself. Keep loving yourself. Keep self-caring. Keep doing the thing where you do not buy into other people's drama. You understand now that before you were playing the game, now you are playing the game, but you see that it's a game. You're not taking it seriously the way you did before. And that's such a beautiful thing. And I feel like that if you haven't already gotten there, there's this feeling that there's going to be a real beautiful lightness coming to you. There's going to be moments of, divine bliss, ecstatic bliss. There's going to be moments where you just start giggling uncontrollably for no reason. It's sacred absurdity. Sacred absurdity, right? Whimsical absurdity. Sacred whimsy, right? Seeing the beauty in life. Seeing that all these manufactured systems don't block the miracles, but if you buy into them, it blocks the miracle of life because it sucks away your joy. You need to water the things that you want to grow in your heart. So we are starting out with this 9. Yeah, there's a lot of like pain in your past, scarcity. Look at this. You had to feel like you were very defensive. You felt like there was no sanctuary. And this is exactly like the perfect example of what I'm talking about here, because these people are in desolation, but they're right outside of a sanctuary. So the idea is, before, when you were kind of wrapped up in other people's manufactured nonsense, you were feeling such loss when your cups were still full. But they kept saying their cups were not full. And you were like, well, maybe mine aren't. And you know, it pulls you into this really defensive energy. But look at that. You drank of the sacred waters. You used your discernment. Look at that. Ending with 2 queens. Queen of Swords and the Queen of Cups. Right after the Ace of Cups. So this was a real emotional journey for you, right? You came to this frequency, to this energy through your emotional state. And that is beautiful. That is also one of the most painful ways to come through it, right? But you drank the sacred waters of truth, even when it was painful, even when it was difficult. You used the sword of discernment to see where you were buying into someone else's difficulties or someone else's stuff, or where you were self-sacrificing unnecessarily and it wasn't even doing any good. So now you're getting into this queen energy, and, you know, balancing air and water is balancing your heart with your mind. This is mind-heart coherence. And that's the energy you're stepping into. Wow. Beautiful. And you know what? The universe can't help but respond with miracles when you're in that kind of energy, right? Let's look at a few Cosmic Jester cards. This is my own Sacred Trickster deck. The universe has denied your request to overthink this professionally. Yeah, it's time for you. You know this already, that you're, you know, you doubt what's happening, but you're also learning that going with the flow is exactly what you're supposed to be doing right now. All right, let's see. You were a bonfire before you took a wet blanket's input into consideration. Yeah. Before, when you took all this stuff seriously, you know you were bright. You know you were already in this frequency, but then you got kind of pulled into that and lost the frequency because you took these people who can't tell, you know, they can't even tell what emotion they're feeling right now. You took their analysis of your heart seriously, because that's what you were taught. There's no shame in that, but you're learning better now. You're like, I'm going to shine bright. I've been doing my healing. It's an ongoing journey, and I'm aligning with miraculous things. Those miraculous things are anything from feeling joyful again to even bigger things in your life. If they are making you excavate for simple answers, go be an archaeologist instead. Dinosaurs are more interesting. This is that thing where it can be kind of difficult to explain, but if you've experienced it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. 2 things. Number 1, that people will give you the bare minimum and get upset with you when you say, can you just volunteer that info? So for example, you might be like, do you want to meet up on Thursday? And they'll be like, yeah, sure. And you're like, okay, what time? And they're like, yeah, we can meet up on Thursday. And you're like, okay, well, what time? I really need to know. I have a schedule. And then they might be like, well, I'll just text you that day. And you're like, no, I need to know now. I'm not going to rotate my whole life. But they don't understand why you don't want to just but then you might have to ask 15 questions just to get one simple answer. That is buying into manufactured drama. That is putting you in that's the second thing, is it's putting you in a situation where you buy into their point of view like it's legitimate. It's not a legitimate point of view for you to have to excavate with 87 questions to get a simple answer to what time are we meeting on Thursday, right? But then they make you feel crazy because you keep asking, and like, why you keep asking? Well, you're not answering my question, right? So it's that idea that like you get pulled into a conversation that's not even relevant, and it takes it off of the actual conversation. But you see that clearly now. And oh, now when it happens, it probably fills you with sacred rage. You're like, oh no, you're not doing that to me again. I love this energy for you. Spirit has been watching your journey. Spirit has seen what you've been through and sees that you're ready, you're leveling up. And remember, leveling up is just a human thing we say. You know, your spirit is already there, your higher self is there. We're still just navigating in this dimension or whatever. But yeah, water that garden, be that healing light to yourself and to the world. All right, I will see you next time, alchemists. Continue the great work. Hello, alchemists, and welcome to your initiation through doorway number 2. You chose false light. What is Spirit preparing you for? Be discerning, for not everything that appears radiant is of true light. There are energies that mimic the divine, seeking to lead you astray. So there is an energy in your life, or one coming into your life, that might seem great on the surface, but you're getting a message right now to be very discerning. The gift of discernment is one that you already have naturally, but you might have been trained not to use it or to not trust your intuition. But also this false light energy has a lot to do with, in my opinion, like very deceptive energy. So it's like if you have a good heart in general and you really like giving people the benefit of a doubt and stuff, this kind of energy can really use that against you. And since we're talking about spirit and stuff, there's a chance that this has to do with a false teacher, one that seems great on the surface. And I've talked about this kind of stuff before, that be very mindful of what someone is getting from you, right? Especially in spirituality. It is a spiritual guide or leader's responsibility to be so transparent and ethical with what they're doing. Now, so like, for example, I say this a lot and it probably makes me poo-poo here on YouTube. I didn't mean to rhyme there, but a lot of tarot channels are designed specifically to keep you hooked. So you feel so much relief watching someone tell you your ex is going to come back, or that person got what was coming to them, or they're going to come back to you, or they're thinking about you 24/7. And then you feel like, oh, I have to go back every day and get that reassurance. So they seem so bright, but you can get hooked into a loop. And they probably even think that they're being helpful, right? And you know, once again, I always say, if you're on my channel, this is Shadow Work channel. If you ever feel that this channel is not leading you where you need to go, please go where you need to go. More than anything, I want you to be your own guru, to be the master of your own intuition, to individuate, because even one person healing themselves helps heal everybody. One person who's healed moves through the world, and their vibrancy heals other people. And so there are people out there who shine a false light of healing, that they've already healed and stuff, but really they're still working from a wound, or they're exploiting other people's wounds. So make sure you're being discerning, right? That you're being careful, especially around spirituality and stuff, because people who have no morals, who have no qualms, who have no true spiritual framework, will use spirituality, and it won't bother them at all, as a way to exploit people who are vulnerable. So, you know, I know that's weird coming from a tarot channel, but you know, I work with shadow work, and I feel like it's important that you guys understand that if you outgrow my channel, there's no love, there's no bad feelings. You know, the goal is always for you to not need messages anymore, that you receive them directly through your intuition, through that still small voice. But shadow work is a long, arduous task, so I am here for you when you need me. You might need to duck in and out sometimes. Let's take a look at your shadow. seek the angel perspective, balance. And then in your shadow, we have this puppet on a string and on a throne, it looks like. So it's the feeling that some people might give you, someone you're either encountering now or soon may encounter is going to give you the feeling of like, ooh, look at you, queen, look at you, king. But really, it's almost like a love bombing feeling. And like I said, this can be in the spiritual way. This can be in your real life, in a relationship and work, whatever. But there's this feeling of love bombing, but really they're pulling the strings. It's like they've got the remote control to your nervous system. And so this is where it's saying step back. So we have this juxtaposition of false light against seek the angel perspective. So this is like saying, how can I discern a true angel from a false one? And that takes time, not pretty words. It takes action. It takes balance in your discernment, right? You can't find out in 5 seconds. Although if someone tries to get very close to you very fast, whether that's a spiritual teacher or a potential lover or a friend or it's one thing to like meet people sometimes and then you just have this immediate bond and stuff. But if they start doing things almost right away to like love bomb you, and like I said, love bombing can come up in very many different ways, right? Love bombing isn't always, I love you, I love you, I love you in 3 seconds. So just be mindful as you're moving through that you may have met a person recently or you're going to meet a person who might be tapping into that wound in you and have ulterior motives. So always be mindful. Don't give away too much. Be an observer. Seek the angel perspective is an invitation to do more observing. Some people will ask a bunch of questions about you because it's reconnaissance. They want information on you so that they can have a means to control you better. And it's interesting here too. We have these strings and then we have this sort of figure holding up the angel on strings as well. I think the difference being that this to me kind of represents your higher self. And this represents someone else's hands, right? Someone else is on your strings. You are controlling your own strings here. Yeah, you need to defend what's important to you. Don't let them tap into your feelings of nostalgia. They might seem like the brightest, most wonderful, sunny person, but they might be the kind of person who wants to drain your joy, drain your energy because they can't have their own. And it's something that happens very slowly. It can happen very dramatically, but a lot of times it'll happen really slowly and you won't even realize what happened until you've been emotionally wiped out. Over here with the Nightmare card. But look forward. Look forward. You've been given this message so that when this happens, when you meet this person, or if you've already met them, trust your gut. If something feels off, make sure you take a step back and slow everything down, okay? The right people will never be upset with you for slowing things down. That's a great test, right? A great test is if you slow things down and see how they act. Right? All right. So let's take a few of these Cosmic Jester cards, my own deck here, that it's got kind of a sacred trickster energy. Kind of, you know me, I need everything to be neat and orderly and even. So I know coming into a false light card is kind of scary, but to me, I always feel like, oh, this is a blessing, right? Because now I know what to look for. A boundary held is a resentment prevented. A boundary held is a resentment prevented. Say that 3 times fast. So this is exactly what I was saying. Hold your boundary. Say, we need to slow things down and see what happens. Because in the long term, if they keep pushing your boundaries, you're going to resent them. But if they resent you for holding a healthy boundary at the beginning, That's good. That's showing you exactly who they are. Radical compassion isn't the same as being a doormat. You feel like that you're a spiritual person, that you have so much compassion in your heart. So you feel like, oh, well, I just want to help this person. They might even play on they might have that martyrdom or the victim complex kind of thing. Like, oh, this bad thing happened and that bad thing happened. So they're going to play off your compassion. You can be compassionate in a way that doesn't put yourself at risk, right? You got to be compassionate to yourself too. Not every thought deserves a recurring role. Not every person deserves a recurring role. You don't have to open your castle door to someone with torches, right? Who wants to burn your castle down, even if they're having a hard time. You want to help when you can help, but when if you're getting bad vibes, if you feel like it's going to disrupt your peace, your sanity, your growth, your joy, you need to keep that away from you. You do not need, you've already been through so much. You do not need somebody who's bringing this false light, heavy energy, right? Stay in your peace, stay in your balance. Do not hand the strings of your life over to someone else, because people like this will take those strings and you might not even know it happened till it's too late, till you're already, in this 9 of Swords energy, in despair and confusion. That's another thing. This kind of energy will purposefully keep you confused. So make sure that you are, if anything confuses you, what do I always say? If someone confuses you, ask for clarification. If you're still confused, that's a sign that maybe you should step back, because either they're trying to manipulate you, they're immature and can't communicate come to a communication in a healthy way, or you're just not compatible in communication and you can't develop any kind of relationship, whether that's a friendship or something else, with somebody who you're not compatible with communication-wise. So you don't even really need to know the reason, right? There's no blame game here. You just need to know that it's not working and then have the strength to step away when you see that. All right. Thank you so much for being here, as always. I really appreciate you and all the work you're doing on yourself that heals yourself, but also helps you shine out into the world. Look out for this false light. Keep focused on your inner light. I'll see you next time. Continue the great work, alchemists. Hello, alchemists, and welcome to your initiation through doorway number 3. What is Spirit preparing you for right now? You chose interference. Energetic interference occurs when you absorb emotions, thoughts, and frequencies that do not originate from you. Take a moment to reset. What is yours will feel empowering. What isn't will dissolve when released with grace. Spirit wants you to know that you have been overgiving, right? And you are an empath. So you have been absorbing so much energy even when you didn't know. And this is an invitation for you to practice certain, whatever your path is. There's different meditations you can do. You need to get your boundaries, your energetic boundaries in order, because you're getting very overwhelmed. And a lot of times you might even find yourself getting upset for no reason. And it's because you absorbed someone else's energy and you didn't realize it. And so therefore you might be feeling like, why am I acting out like this? But really it's because it's not you. It's the energy you had picked up from somebody else. So it's good to be aware of that. If you're a very sensitive person, you're very susceptible to this. So one thing that I do every single night before I go to bed is I call my energy back to myself and I release the energy of other people back out to them. And there's a million different ways to do this. You can picture it as like cords tying people together, and you're cutting the ones that are not serving your highest good. You can picture it as putting your hands up and say, I release what is not mine and I draw back my energy. However you want to do it. Like I said, there's a million different ways. So one difficulty with this, though, and we'll look at it in your shadow in a second, is that oftentimes once we have absorbed a person's emotions, it's so intimate. You feel like you know their soul. So then releasing that person, even if it's a toxic bond, and that's not empowering you but is hurting you, it feels like you're losing a piece of yourself because you absorbed so much of that energy, right? But that's where discernment does come in. Look at that. This energy can be disguised as something playful and fun, but really you're absorbing the shadow of the people around you. A lot of times you might be mistreated by the people around you who have this kind of, who love to dump their stuff on you. And in your empathy and your compassion, you let them, but then their shadows become yours and you have your own shadows to deal with. So learning how to be reflective. You're a mirror. You don't want to be, a shock absorber. You want to be a mirror. Mirrors help people more than anything. People get really angry at mirrors, and that's why people don't like to be mirrors. But when you're a mirror, you keep yourself protected, but you still help other people. You don't have to do anything. Just be a mirror, aka be your true, authentic spiritual self. Shine as bright as you can, and let all their energy reflect back to them. If they get mad, remember it's not about you. It's because they saw in you what they disowned in themselves, right? Beginnings. Oh, when you do this, this is going to change things so much for you. You're going to feel so much lighter. Like I said, I feel kind of like this pressure on my chest. It wouldn't surprise me if you have sleep paralysis sometimes because of the amount of energy absorbed from other people. But yeah, you need to, if you burn herbs, if you, whatever you do to purify and cleanse yourself, take a cleansing shower with intention of cleansing away other people's energy. Cut energetic ties throughout the day, because I picture it like this. We all have energy in sort of a field around us, like our auras, let's say. But it's almost like tendrils reaching out, right? So if you're walking through the grocery store and you walk by someone, a stranger, for a moment, your wires touch, right? And if you're an empath, you might absorb some of their stuff, even if you never talked to them, even if you didn't know them. And so that's why it's so important to have your boundary, your spiritual, your auric boundary really, really, really strong if you're an empath, because you are susceptible to picking up on people's energy. And if you want to think about psychologically instead of spiritually, empaths have such a high level of sensing people's moods that they are constantly adjusting themselves. So you can see strangers and tell immediately through your own lifetime of pattern recognition the mood that they're in, and your nervous system's going to start adjusting for it based on your past experiences with volatile people, right? Cuddle and cradle. Oh, yeah. What I'm getting from this is just like self-love. Self-love. Moving that empathy. Obviously, you still want to be empathetic, obviously. But how empathetic are you being to yourself if you're allowing yourself to be kind of drained and or dumped on by people, because you're an empath, because you're kind? You need to make sure that you're taking recovery time. Say no to things when you need to say no. Because if you don't take that recovery time for yourself, then you can't keep your boundaries strong, your shield strong, your reflective mirror to keep all that energy out strong. So make sure you're giving yourself that time and space. Yeah, okay. So with this energy, you're not going to be able to clear out these old patterns in 5 seconds, right? It's something you have to keep working on. It can feel like there's too many options on how to do this. So I would say just pick one and stick to it, because really when it comes to these energetic things, it's really about consistency, right? You can just lay in bed and picture yourself in a sphere that's a mirror, Or you can, just whenever before you go out and meet people, picture yourself in a sphere of golden protective light. Just pick one and stick to it so that you don't get overwhelmed with the possibilities. Because this kind of energy that you keep absorbing from other people, it's bringing your frequency down, right? It's making you feel trapped. You're feeling scarcity when normally you have such a bright, optimistic attitude. But when you absorb this, your nervous system cannot handle the nervous systems of a bunch of other people, and not just strangers, but I get the feeling that there are other people in your life who you're regulating their nervous systems, and that is not sustainable. You will get sick, right? So the idea is to let go of that pattern, but it's going to be really painful because these kinds of patterns are incorporated into your psyche, into your nervous system when you're very young. So luckily, neuroscience says you can rewrite it, yay! But it's not easy because it really does feel like the death of part of yourself, and it feels so uncomfortable and so painful. But it brings you into that King of Wands energy, which is having true power and autonomy over your energy, over your mind, over your space, and then allowing that to kind of trickle. That will move over into practical life, right? Because people can feel that kind of energy when you aren't just there for psychic vampire, for, energy vampires to, an energy vampire can sense people who are super empathetic, and they are drawn to them like moths to a flame, right? And so when you get these boundaries really strong, you won't be targeted as much by them. You will be targeted because of your brightness, but that's a whole different thing. What I'm talking about here are the kind of people who dump their emotional energy on you. All right, let's take a look at what the Cosmic Jester, my trickster, sacred trickster deck has to say. If they are making you excavate for simple answers, go be an archaeologist instead. Dinosaurs are more interesting. Some of these people who dump their stuff on you, they make you chase them. So they'll just send you a text or something that's like, oh my God. They want you to panic. They want you to be worried. They want you to chase them. So you'll be like, oh my God, are you okay? What's wrong? Is there anything I can do? And then they won't answer you for a few days. And you're like, did they die? And then just keep you worried. And then they feed off of your panic. They feed off of your energy. It makes them feel alive. It makes them feel important. If someone is making you excavate for answers instead of being a grown-up and just telling you what they need, you need to let that go. That is not for you, right? That is like poison. That is like kryptonite to the empath. Both because you're going to want to rush in and fix it because you're nice, but also because this is the perfect trap for an empath. You are attempting to rehydrate a raisin and call it a grape. This person has exploited other people, and that leaves a sort of a dried out husk of a human, right? They keep feeding off of other people rather than building their own light. You can't save them. If you have that attitude that I'm going to try and save people, you can't. People can save themselves. You can support people and help them. But if a person is hurting you, if a person is being toxic to you, you have no obligation to try and help them. In fact, it's important that you don't put yourself in emotional or any other kind of danger. A rose never once justified its fragrance. In these situations, when you back off, people will often get really upset with you. You don't have to justify. You're going to want to justify. You don't have to. In fact, it's better that you don't justify. Just say, this is my boundary. Please respect it. Then enforce it. So if you say that your boundary is, I will not be responding to single word texts. If they send a single word text, don't respond. No matter how much it hurts, because it's going to hurt, because you want to rush in and see what's going on. Hold your boundary. Don't give more information than you need to people who haven't earned closeness. There are some people out there who will use that against you. Okay, thank you for being here today, and I will see you next time. Continue the great work.